Welcome to another episode here at Lightingbot. My name is Amit, as usual. I'm happy to have people watching already. I hope you have some questions ready, because I don't, as usual. I go with the phone now, just feeling it. Today, I actually forgot to ask him how to pronounce his name, so we're just gonna say Calis for now, and then he can pronounce his own name. But let us please welcome him, and let's learn a little bit about how he does his lighting, which is often quite real time. There's been a couple of weather effects he's been doing in some of the recent Scapes he's worked on. And I, for one, I'm very curious about how he approaches the mood and the differences. So let's welcome him into the stream. Hey, man. And let me also unmute you. Sorry. Here
Yes,
you go.
I will put the sound. And yes, it's right. It's Calis. You're right. So it's very fine. So hello, everyone.
How do you pronounce your first name, though?
Geoffroy. If you
Geoffroy.
want the true French side, but you
Geoffroy.
can say Geoff. It's fine.
No, Geoffroy is so much cooler. You got to
Yeah.
say it properly. Quick hello to Turkey Master, as usual, very loyal viewer. Thank you for stopping by as usual. I appreciate it. And thank you for Hard Talk, also becoming a loyal viewer. Thank you. I hope you have some good questions, because I do need my breaks, as you know, because there's a lot of thinking as I talk. So, Geoffroy.
Yeah, sure.
Geoffroy.
Don't worry.
Okay. So, let's learn a little bit about you first. So let's talk a little bit of how you got started and how you actually ended up as a senior lighting artist, which is what you are at the moment. And I'm secretly pulling up your LinkedIn profile just to be sure I cover every topic. So yeah, you studied around 2010 and 2012, which was games art and management at Rubica. So start from there and then explain a little bit of how you made your decisions.
So yeah, Rubica is like to have like a master degree on it. So it's you learn all the base of video game, but it's more general. Like so, you learn 3D. You can learn the more tech with more engine, or you can learn game design if you are focused on it, level design. So yeah, on my part, I was focused on game art. So I did 2 years here, finishing with a student project. And after that, I came to Paris, and I worked during 3 years for Kiloton. So it's a company who did a lot of different kind of game, like sometimes fantasy, sometimes more serious game, and now they are focused on more racing game. So I was working on game like motorcycle or truck racer, or the last one was WRC5, so it's rally game. And they continue now more and more to focus on V-Rally and all this kind of racing. So here I started more in 3D environment. And during all this period, I learned also lighting because it's something that I started to like. And they have their own engine. So it was trying to also understand how things are working. Also, it was the start of everything like PBR at this moment. So it was learning how this works, which things works better and how to do. So it was my period of tests, and it's here where I have my first love with lighting. And after that, I had the opportunity with Massive Entertainment. So this one is in Malmö. So it's Ubisoft, for more precise, and it was to work on the Division. So I started like a level artist, and I had this opportunity also during my first months. They asked me if I can change and to be lighting artist to help the lighting pod. Because one of the lighting artists, the lead, was moving at this moment, like he was not present during the year. So I came to help, and so I have this first big experience on lighting here, and it was very nice to learn also with Snowdrop. So it's like also the same. It's like their own engine, so it's nice also to try different things. And so I was working during this old Division and Division, all the DLC of the Division. And I moved when we started to work on pre-production of Division 2. So here at this moment, it was another opportunity with Ubisoft Montreal. So I moved to Montreal just after that to work on Rainbow Six. Here, like a senior lighting artist on it. So it was, it was like I had the opportunity to work on different new map for DLC for Rainbow Six. So here also I was in their own engine with Anvil. So it's the same that the one they use for Assassin's Creed, for example, or For Honor. So here, yeah, I had 2 years on Rainbow Six on different kind of map. And after I switched when we started the production of Hyperscape. So here I was the only lighting artist, like senior on this project. So I started to work on it. And after, I think maybe I recruit Peter Trine also with me too. So we continue to work on Hyperscape. And after Hyperscape, I had the opportunity to move back to Sweden. So now I am at DICE. So I moved to Stockholm. And so yeah, it's now the end of the moving with DICE and since like 2020. So yeah, it's been 2 years now almost. So,
Okay,
and
cool.
working on Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 2042.
Right. You have a fan. Thomas,
Ooh,
did you say
yes, we have been
you're the
on the
best?
same class. It's my classmate. So, hello, Thomas.
That's good. For everyone watching, there's like 20 at the moment, so you can please like, subscribe, and leave a positive comment, as always helps the live viewing, so more people find us. And also, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. We are more than open to take your questions. So just a reminder. So I'm gonna call you Calis because I like your last name. Is that okay?
Yes, if you want.
Cool, thanks. So obviously you've worked on a couple of titles, and obviously they're pretty big titles, and most of us have played, Division, Rainbow Six. Not tried Hyperscape just yet, mostly because I'm getting old and I don't have the reaction speed anymore to keep up with those kind of games.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced shooter, so it's even me. I was like, whoa, yes, but I like these kind of things. But yeah, you need to more active.
So a lot of these titles have a lot of dynamic lighting in them, and that's a bit different to light than a lot of the games some people are doing, which does not have necessarily dynamic lighting. And when I say dynamic lighting, I also mean you have to pay attention to if someone shoots the lights off, how dark does it get, and lights coming on and off. And in the recent cases that I looked at, specifically Battlefield 2042, there's also weather events happening, which you also have to decide, okay, what's different mood, how's the lighting going to be different. These are all quite demanding thought process that needs to be done first, like planning and execution comes, there's a huge gap between that. So let's talk a little bit about challenges, without mentioning the specific titles, that you feel is maybe common for people who come from baked lighting or pre-baked lighting or rendering to this type of real-time lighting. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, the main things, I mean, there's so many main things, but that's true that when you go to real time, there is already this period of when you first try and start to put your lights, you see the quality is not the same that when you start to bake and you have all this nice precision and you're like, okay, I need to think differently about this should be real time, so I will lose maybe some quality about it. But at the same point, I will have everything dynamic. So you need to be like, okay, how I can bring this dynamic to the player, and sometimes try to play also with the gameplay with that. So if I took an example like Rainbow Six, when you shoot the light, you can have the blinking, and we don't destroy the light. So, but you need to think about these things that if it start to blink, your room need also to show that it start to dim or not, like because if you start to bake your light on it, it will be the room will be very bright, but your light will be off. So you need to be like, okay, I need to have a room which is not too bright. So it's a lot of thought about trying stuff, and you need to try a lot behind in the game. It's not just you're working on your engine and you bake and you never come back and you never play the game. Here you need to play your game because you need to see that, okay, if I throw a grenade on Battlefield, if you shoot something, it start to explode. Uh, which object is like destructible? Uh, because sometimes you need also to follow the workflow. So you work a lot with 3D artists to see what the objective for this room. If this wall will be destroyed, like you need to know first how what will be the level design, what will be the objective we place, and after with that you start to build like, okay, now I have everything like the placeholder and everything they want to be here. How I can also after guide the player and all this notion about lighting, like what will be what is important for your gameplay, because I think each game has different things. On my side, I play mostly like shooter game, like you can see. It's different between them because, for example, Division is more linear game, so you have this kind of dungeon place and you enter and you need to go to point A to point B. And after, when you're in game more like Rainbow Six, you need to think more 360 degree because everywhere is important. So you need to keep in mind all these things and use the lighting for you can play with, like you can have this dark spot and everything, but you need also to keep in mind that you need to see players. So everything is stay pretty bright on this kind of game. You cannot have all this big contrast you can have in solo game where you have people are like always like in love with contrast, and here it's difficult to have them because you're like, yeah, if I put contrast, players start to complain about it. That's why it's we have different method after about it, like you can have your dynamic light, but sometimes we place some fake light just to try to brighten more the room. But you work on exposure after to see if the balance, to see if it's correct.
Okay, that's interesting with the exposure, because I know a lot of people struggle with exposure and getting it right and the lighting right. So do you have like a fixed exposure that's across the game, which I know is quite common for Ubisoft titles at least, or do you go into like each environment and each room and have custom exposure, or how does that work in your case, in your experience?
It's depends of the game, yeah. That's the point. It's just normally you should, I mean, you should have the main one exposure, but after when you enter in a room, like you can see on a game like Battlefield or Rainbow Six, you have this darkness, brightness, and it's very difficult. I think it's one of the darkest point of this kind of game. It's like you start to run and you arrive to this room, it's pretty dark because you are from outside, and when you go inside, it's pretty dark. And the thing is, people inside waiting for you. So these 2 seconds of adaptation is the worst, and every time they complain. So there is a lot of kind of different solution. Like in Rainbow Six, we talk about it. We have a document about it. Like we put some kind of plane of exposure in front of window and door, trying to bright just this section, so you don't have this darkness inside, or at the opposite, when you are inside, it's not too bright, so you can see. So it's like a lot of tricky things to see, and it depends of the kind of game. Some game you don't care at all. Like some games are made for you need to have this brightness and this
So,
darkness.
but what's your personal opinion about exposure? Like me, I find it a bit annoying that games use it all the time. I would have
Yeah.
preferred just fixed, kind of fixed look, but that's my preference. That's probably why I like
Yeah.
games like I don't know, more stylized games, because they don't really use a lot of exposure. But what are your thoughts on
It's
it?
it's nice for cinematic things. Like when you have a game like very linear cinematic, and we say like God of War, this kind of game where you follow line, it's really beautiful, and they can play with, because you play with this more darkness and you arrive and you have this big exposure. You're like, oh yeah, this is nice feeling. But I think for a game mostly I don't like it. I mean, I've tried to have a cap and try to, maybe there is a little of when you go out and you're like, yeah, okay, it's nice. You have this little change, but not too much, because I think it's just annoying when you play, you don't. And mostly for this kind of game, I would say that players are like are here to just experience things, not to be annoyed by everything around. So it's really depend of the game. But if you want the pure realistic one, yes, of course, people want to have this idea of exposure. But I don't know. It's a tricky one, and I think that it's nice to try to cap first, and to don't be annoyed by this. Just cap your exposure, and after, if you want, you can try to have like distance. But I think it just stay visible. I think for me it's most important. It's to see, to don't burn the eyes, or to be like, what is it here? I see nothing, or something like this.
So I thought it would be fun to maybe open your art station and kind of work our way through all of your images, not all of the images, but at least each project that you have posted separately on each level, and kind of talk briefly about the one challenge and what you learned from each of those levels. Maybe that could be interesting to try and talk about. What do you think? You up for it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, just go ahead.
I mean, you can always share your screen once you have our station up, and you can take control of it yourself. Probably easiest for you. So if you want to skip over secretly, you can just skip over one.
No, but it's okay. I just go one after one, and I will. Yeah, some might be less interesting, but I will see. I will say to you if it's.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Hold on. I'll open Chrome so you made a distraction here. I'll share my screen quickly. That might be good. However, no too much peeking. Let's see if this works. Do you see the screen?
Yeah.
Cool. Let me just double check that everyone else also sees the screen. Yeah. Cool. So you have, of course, different lighting and a different style going on. So if we go for already this one, this is something personal, maybe.
Yeah.
So why did you do this personal one, for example? What's the thought process here?
This one was like, yeah, it was just a fun.
And it's 5 years old as well.
Yes, it's pretty old, this one, I remember. And it was like, because I started to be like, okay, I wanted to play with design, because it's something that I love with lighting, is to play with shape, and but shape from emissive and the source of light. So I just wanted to have a trip with that, and yeah, I had this opportunity to work on it, and yeah, I wanted to work also with different materials, so see how what can give the better contrast and everything.
I mean, it is good. Definitely interesting. I always like this kind of lighting. I think it's interesting to see what people can do with one light too, actually. So this was also 5 years ago. I'm purposely showing people where you started and where you are now as well. So I noticed you used DaVinci Resolve in your personal project for images. So what is it you normally do when you go into DaVinci Resolve? Is it trying to color correct, and do you still use it much when you're do stuff?
Yeah. In general, yeah, DaVinci, I'm always on it now. I mean, when I started, I was like Photoshop and try to do my color grading on it. And I started to learn DaVinci Resolve. On this project, it was like very, very simple DaVinci Resolve, because it was my beginning on it. And I was like, okay, I wanted to learn with this one. And now, yeah, each project, I will say I try to jump on it. And I think DaVinci Resolve is very, very nice for this. And I will encourage everyone to try to work and try it, because there is this free version, so it's very interesting, and I think it's the best way also to learn. I mean, how to manipulate colors on it. There is some kind of process, and you can choose different way, and like if you want for color management and color balance, you have many things to learn about color science, I think, with DaVinci Resolve, and it's very interesting. So I really encourage people to jump on it, because it's not just, people sometimes think that color grading is just you change your color to green to yellow and it's done. And I think there is many things to see, and but it's on my process. I go every time on DaVinci Resolve to see what I can do with that after.
So was it originally orange and cyan, or did you do that in DaVinci Resolve?
Mostly it was like these colors, but I think I just push. I think on what I remember here, I think it's just to. It's more the premier like just pushing the shadow and like yeah,
Okay.
all this kind of stuff. But I think the colors I had this in my mind since the beginning, so I didn't change so much.
So you started quite early with practicing with shape and color
Yeah,
when you did your lighting, basically. So you did Division, which is funny enough 6 years ago, not five. Wow, it's already been 6 years since Division came
yes,
out. Wow.
yeah, pretty old now. Yeah, it's funny
So,
to see.
so what's the challenges when you did Division and using Snowdrop? I guess also in this case.
But first to learn the engine. I mean, I love to learn new engines. It's true that I mean, on my personal side, I use Unreal because um, it's more easy because you have YouTube channel and everyone explaining. But I like the challenge to jump in a new company and having their own engine because they have all their good stuff and bad stuff,
Mm.
and you can complain or you can not complain. I mean, it's very nice. And yeah, for Division, I think it was Snowdrop, but Snowdrop is very nice engine. I mean, I had a lot of fun to jump on it and see how it's working, like all this part of building the city. It was very pleasant. They have a lot of tools who now Unreal Engine has, but I think Snowdrop I even had before, and I think they have been pretty in advance at this moment for Division. So yes, it was very nice to
I
try.
think one interesting thing, because I was talking about it yesterday or 2 days ago, I think, with someone else, because originally we were looking at Battlefield, but I think it's the case with all of your titles is these hotspots, which normally I am afraid of doing. Like I wouldn't never do this because I would. This just makes me uncomfortable when something is very bright. But I see it in all the Battlefield titles and Division titles that the lighting artists there are much more comfortable pushing the bright spot and kind of make it a hotspot. Is that something because obviously in real life it can get very hot when you go outside and it's proper summer and proper bright in certain countries, like Sweden as well, when proper
Mm.
summer in Sweden is pretty bright. Is that a realistic choice, or is that because of the exposure, or is there any reason for it?
I think it's mostly like it's a mix of like the art direction also. Like it's depends of the art direction where you want to go with that. And I think sometimes when you have this hotspot and like this bright place and everything, um, it's more yes. I will always say it's more a choice of the art director and where you go. And if we use exposure and like you say, like you can push a place and uh, I think it's always it brings a more contrast also. And I think more you have this kind of contrast when you look at this kind of games, more players also like it because you have this kind of warm vision and at the same time you have this very contrast, like this very shadow place. And you're like, yes, this is nice to walk around and just to move.
Hmm.
And um,
And
uh,
what's the process normally? At least for Division, was it you made suggestions? Did you do reference and mood board normally first, or did you just jump in and like what was normally the
For
process
for
there?
for Division, for the light, the main light, it was our lead to just have different kind because it's like daytime, so it changed during you have today to the night and everything changed. But after when we have a level like this one for underground, I was in charge with my colleague to we have been two lighting artists on this level, and uh, it's it's more you propose like you're like okay I will go on this direction. I will see what is done, and you work with 3D and level artists to see what they want to do for each room. And when you see the placeholder or like the first placement of props, also you're like, okay, which kind of mood you want to bring. For Division, it's pretty. I will say it was always this kind of mood of semi-abandoned place, and because everything was on this kind of thing, so everything like a lot of light from the ground and a lot of strong shadow like you should not feel all time comfortable with some place and it's very pleasant to work the lighting on it because you bring this kind of mood And also we have a lot of different kind of colors in Division. So you play also with your background and foreground, like for this, with changing the colors.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it's definitely interesting to see. And so, would you normally place the light props, or was someone already placing the light props
it's
for
we
you?
place, yeah, it's lighting artists to place the light props. Sometimes some are placed by. It depends of the game. Sometimes level artists place them because they have an idea of the room will be like this. So you have like, oh, okay, they place. I don't know the lustre on the here, and you're like, okay, I will continue to work with that because I will say that for the symmetry and everything, it fits well. So you you say, okay, I will do my lighting with this one. But after, like a lot of small one are placed by lighting artists to just try to bring contrast and uh, play more. Um, it's the same for the FX also because I'm watching like there is one with a fire. Mostly, sometimes it's the FX artists to play them, but you can after work with the FX artist to ask them, okay, can you move a little here because it doesn't fit with the lighting or something like this.
Gonna move forward a little bit, so we also cover the main topic a little bit, which is all the dynamic effects going on and Battlefield 2042. There's a few levels. There's like storms and dust and everything. And how's that doing lighting for that? Also, a lot of it is outside, of course. Are there any difficulty challenges in comparison to Division, your experience there, or Rainbow Six for that matter, which is quite interior based and a bit different as well? Um, what's the differences, and what do you think you have um different processes that you learned?
I think here for Battlefield, just in general, thought and Battlefield are more like outdoor game, so it's more this trying to catch the more realistic. Uh, it's a lot of work with to have the most realistic way of how the light should work, trying to have this more filmic style. Um, and yes, because I think for Rainbow Six it was a lot of work more on the design and interiors, and I had so many. Um, I did so many mood boards about which kind of small props to have. Here on Battlefield, it was a big work of like everything outdoor should work nicely and perfectly. So you have a big work of mood board. See which color should be applied, and work of base color. Like everything should be correctly balanced, even on 3D on materials. It's something that it's common on lighting, like on all project I did. I always come back on materials and have a feedback of for 3D to sorry to say about the base color.
Okay, so when you do, because I know in this particular game and maybe even the other ones, you can shoot the lights a lot. So you would um, try and also consider how dark it becomes and if it has the intended mood or effect, or is it mostly about gameplay in Battlefield 2042 or 5 for that example?
It's mostly like you when you are in the room, you're like, okay, can I destroy this light or not? And you should always be visible. I mean, all this kind of game, they're always like you need to be visible. Like if you are in a room, you cannot have a dark room. You know, you cannot have a light and you shoot and you can destroy the light and it's dark, because player will be like, no way, and you will have a feedback of, yeah, they don't like it at all.
So
So you need to keep alive the lighting the most possible. So sometimes the astuce is just to um, what I'm doing mostly on all of these kind of things. It's just I have a props with like my hero props lighting, and mostly the one visible. And player loves to shoot first because it's emissive, it's bright in your face. So I don't know, players love to shoot bright things, so they shoot first this one, and when they destroy, you turn off the light, but you have a lot of small lights around who keep alive. uh, yes, emissive are always fun too. So yeah, it's something that players are like, they follow emissive, they it's something that it's a thing the most bright on your image, so they follow this. So having something really emissive pretty big, you need to destroy it, it's true, but you need to have
is that the language though? Like if it's very emissive, you can shoot it, or is there any lights you can't shoot?
not everything, because it depends of the shape. It's something that it's difficult to. I will say it depends of the game. It depends of how what's the tech also behind your game. For me, I always have this logic of um, if the shape is round and there is it's a volume of light. Like I always say, this kind of big bulb of light and a big round light. Yes, you can destroy it because it's a volume. When it starts to be flat, when it's in the wall and stuff, I try to be like, okay, this I'm not sure. I can do the blinking, but it won't be destroyed because it's flat and player can just shoot and they don't care if it's not destroyed because there is no volume, there is no shape, there is no 3D on it. It's just a plane of emissive.
That's
Uh,
interesting because I remember when I was doing Ghost Recon Breakpoint, one of the DLCs, and like this image, there was like multiple lights, and it was obviously there was only one light source. Like there wasn't really multiple light source, but it looks like it because of the emissive planes. But if you shoot one, they all broke rather than just one. To
mm,
kind of make it easier for the player as well, because it was based on Splinter Cell, so it was supposed to be a bit sneaky, and you were supposed to be able to shoot all the lights, and you were supposed to have it dark as well. So is that the same thing and process you use here as well? That it's like one or two lights and it just looks like it's
no, it's not
multiple lights?
separate. They are more like separate things because every time you have always a light on this kind of room. Because for Ghost Recon, if I take this example, yes, you have the night vision, you have everything to help you to see in the dark. Not here. So it's you need to keep this in mind.
And how do you keep in mind the fact that you have a storm coming your way, changing the weather in the skybox, and does that affect the interior lighting in some of the areas when you're inside too, or you don't have to worry about that?
I don't go so much on detail, but yeah, no, it's not affecting so much our interiors. It's more our exterior who is we need to work. Like you can see this kind of transition when you play, you can see the transition between the day and day and storm, and it's a big work to do the nice blending.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay. So how about we take a break from the art station and you show your
Yeah.
mood and decision and thought process, so people can kind of pick up on what the work is actually involved when it comes to making this kind of thought process and decisions, and kind of learn from you a little bit.
Yeah, I can share. I have mood board. I don't know if you can. You see? It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you start, let's answer one question so people remember they can ask questions, and I will put
Oh
them
yeah.
on. So Turkey Master is asking, are you allowed to create independent work using in-house engines? Uh,
This is no. I mean, it's like you can ask, but I don't know what for which what's the goal of this work. If it's for personal, like just for your portfolio, it's something that you need to ask with manager and everything. But mostly they are not. Um, they prefer that it stay in the legal way, so it's stay for their game and what they want to show. But you can do in your own independent work for training and everything, like see what you can do, because after you can present this and say, oh, you see, I can do that, or I started to, I don't know, you have a new way to do the ray tracing or something like this. And they are completely open to let people to work the engine alone. But after to show outside for personal work, this is like a lot of legal issues, so you need to ask first. So they are not always uh, okay with that.
Okay, so the purpose of what you guys are about to see now is really because a lot of the stuff you find online is really in engine, and you kind of don't learn about the process that comes before you place your first flight. So I'm gonna try and obviously ask questions regarding that. But if you guys have any questions that might help you make the right decisions, you can also ask your question now. I think it's a very useful process that Calis is going to show us now about planning ahead and making the decisions, especially in terms of color, which a lot of people also struggle with. So I'll leave it to you and explain your thought process, and use your examples as well, of course.
Yeah, it's something I wanted to just to share because I know that mostly it's difficult when you do your mostly for personal projects, because when you have your personal projects, you have your things in mind and you're like, okay, I will do like this. So people sometimes do the step, they avoid to do mood board or They have references, but they have 3D references or video game references and stuff. So I just wanted to share also how sometimes we do, like on all the project I did, I always like mood board to present it. And so there is so many different ways to do mood board. This one way is not maybe the one that you saw before or something like this. Some mood boards I did before was sometimes focus on props. So sometimes it's mostly just to show what kind of props you will have in your room, um, what's the design on your world. Like this one, for example, at the opposite, it's more the mood. It's more focused on how will be the colors, what will be the mood in the scene, the sky, which kind of sky you will want to use. Um, and you need to keep in mind that the mood board is here, not sometimes just for you, but also for other people. Like they come to the project and they're like, okay, what's your things? And you show a mood board, and people quickly are like, okay, I see where you want to go. After the result is not final. Every time when you finish your project, you understand that sometimes you go away from your own mood board because I don't know, something new appear in the game. But it's always really, really nice to keep your mood board on the back and be like, okay, sometimes I struggle to see where I am. I have my mood board to come back to, okay, what was my main thought? So to do mood board, you need to have a lot of references. I can spend, I will say, like a week, like 1 or 2 weeks to do a mood board, because sometimes I'm like, yeah, I need to find references, and I will start by the basic one of Google Image. I have my idea. I'm like, okay, I want to find this, and I type on Google Image, and Google Image is like the big library of a lot of good things and shitty things. So you need to do like, okay, I start to see where I want to go. So I'm just trying to find stuff.
So
And
two things I want to remind people. He spent 1 to 2 weeks just finding and organizing references, and I can guarantee you most of you probably didn't do that on your projects. So that's a very important thing, that between a professional and someone who's learning, I think, is the amount of time they spend doing the planning and references. And the second thing I wanted to ask before you move forward is, how do you know it's a good and bad reference? Because a lot of people don't know how to make the decision. Obviously you need certain eye and level, but I want you to explain your answer on how do you know if it's a good reference or bad reference,
I think it's like,
or what skills are required to make that judgment.
I think it's just depends of also first of what you want to show in your mood board. Like I say, for example, like this props, sky, uh, colors and everything. So for example, here, if I took this example of, you can see quickly here, it's mostly focused on the mood, on the sky, which kind of sky, which kind of colors I will have in two different kind of mood. And where is it? So you understand here there is one where it's more storm, one is more peace and like colorful. So the main things was like, okay, I want to find something close to the sea, because it was the main thing. It was like, okay, I need to find something close to the sea. I need to be something like with end of the day or morning. It depends like where you are on this kind of mood. After, I want to find something where you don't have strong shadow also, because it's more to keep the visibility on your picture. Something I try, and it's very difficult because internet is full of it. It's try to find picture who are not overexposed or underexposed, because sometimes they are like, you find a nice landscape and you're like, oh, it's beautiful, but you see that all shadow are like overexposed, and it's not good, because the thing is not like, it will be difficult in your game to after to have the same balance. So this
Which
is
is
a hard,
difficult, right?
it's very
I
difficult to
think
find
difficult to
this
find.
thing. Yeah, to find a good reference, it's like, that's why I don't be afraid to spend a lot of time trying to find, because it's so, even me, I mean, I have a files of reference, like it's big on my computer, but I just spending and struggling to find the good one. And sometimes they are not perfect, but you show what's your goal on this mood board. Like, okay, I will have this kind of colors, the ground will be like this, the sky will be like this.
Which is why it might take 1 to 2 weeks.
Yes, and like I say, so you can start with Google Image, and I go after on more precise. Like I love 500 pics, for example. Like you have a lot of pictures, so I try to dig after on Pinterest of 500. Like I try to go more and more down on websites where a little more precise. You can more define your research, and after at the end, when I know what I want, I try to like going on, even trying to find name of. Photograph or people who are doing what I really want, and I go like deeply on what they do and taking this reference. But I think it's the best is to start large. Never focus on. I know some people are focused on like a game, and I think also try to avoid other game because we do 3D video game, and I'm like it's nice to be like okay I want to be like this game. It's very interesting, but I think avoid to have all the reference on this game because the thing is people behind the artist lighting the 3D who did this game, they have also reference from this and they are mostly from outdoor like picture of something more realistic. So I think trying to be like, okay, where these people go, uh, I will try to find the reference from this and like trying to, it's even for you, it will help you to understand where you go and um, in which realistic way. So after it can be also drawing, it can be 3D. I mean, there is nothing that block you. Here it's like it's picture from the what we have outside, but
So how do you think? Because you mentioned overexposed or underexposed images and references. What do someone needs to learn and train to know it's underexposed or
I think
overexposed?
this
What are
is
we
like
looking for?
I think this is like when you look at a lot of photography, you see directly like you understand that this one sometimes it's some are okay, you're like you see there is a little of post process and stuff, you're like okay I can understand this thing, but yeah, I think this is just your eyes, you need to adapt, you need, that's why I say that to do spend a lot of time because I think it's yeah, it's like you adapt your eyes, you're like adapt also what you want, because sometimes I go on something and when I wake up the next day I'm like, oh, at the end this reference is not really great, and or the colors or like the shape or everything, or yeah, it's not the best. Or even when I finish a mood board, you need to show to the like art direction or your lead or something. So after you have your feedback, and after some picture are not the best, and they ask you say, "Oh, can you try to find a new one?" So here we go, and you come back to dig again. So you can spend a lot of time to have like the good one, but you need to keep in mind that it's not losing time because this thing will be shown to everyone, and people will keep in mind to be like, okay, we need to have a discussion about this, and you put out your mood board to justify also because it helps you to justify a lot of things, like you're like okay, um, people don't understand where I'm going, I show my mood board and they're like okay, I see now what is, because it's an image, it's a color, it's everything. um, so yeah, just spend time, I will say that it's nothing after
Do you do
try.
that? Do you do that
Yeah,
every level, like for every
yeah,
level as a holistic, or every part of the level, or is it just
I
holistic?
think every time I did for all, like I will say for Battlefield, for Hyperscape. Hyperscape, for example, you have this, it's a big map, it's one big map, and it's 9 districts. And for each district, I did one mood board because it was different colors and different things. It was, my mood board was more focused on more the design, trying to show the different kind of light design you can put and the colors, because each district should have some kind of, you should feel you go in a new district by some difference of colors, color grading, or even the colors on the base color on the material. So I focus more on this on Hyperscape. On Rainbow Six, it was also like shape of light and the mood board, like what, how would be the light in general. So I think yeah, every time you need to do one, and I think it's not even for you. I think it's like very. For me, I like to do mood boards. So I think it's pleasant when you finish. Oh yeah, I like it, and you are like, you feel more confident when you start because you're like, okay, I know where I'm going now, and I don't lose myself with like 500 references. Because also one thing, and I did this kind of mistake in my first mood board when I started, it's to have too much references.
Okay.
Like sometimes if you have like 20, it's nice, but sometimes try to be more like less and less, and like few sometimes are enough to show where you go.
Okay.
Um,
So, because I get a lot of questions about references, and so this is very useful also for me
yeah,
because there's no right way of doing it. But what I have noticed during my interviews and also when I watch people's tutorials and stuff that I pay for sometimes is uh, some of the better lighting artists they spend more time planning and finding good references before they did the lighting, while some people like myself don't necessarily spend so much time doing references. We just jump in and kind of do the lighting, go with the flow. So there is a different quality, I think, when you do spend time and go, okay, this is the clear color palette, this is the clear color palette, this is the type of lights I want. And I think that's very good. So hi, Edwin. He has a question for you, so maybe we can cover that and we can connect it with your stuff. Do you classify your references? For example, do you organize it as primary, secondary, detail, and props? And how do you go about organizing your mood board? So, is this your primary way of organizing mood board, I guess, or
yeah. So I do sometimes different one because I have here, for example, like you can see, it's a mood, and it's like primary. It's your sky, your mood, your color, like everything. And I have some other mood board where more like I classify all my references with props. Also, I have a big folder of all the kind of light props I want in the map. So it's something that I'm always like the one who annoy 3D and level art about it, because I know that mostly when you start a level for any company, every time light props are not sometimes the most important for them, and I love design, so I'm like trying to annoy them with some specific shape I would like, because I think it helps a lot for fitting all together. So I do also some mood boards, or sometimes not a mood board, but a big folder of references I will share with 3D. So after we use Miro also for this, sharing all the props, and I think
so
it helps.
that's interesting with the props, I think. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because that's not something a lot of people know about, I think, is how do you approach the props reference and what's the thought process? Is it the interesting shadow you mean, or is it interesting
The
highlights, or what are we talking about?
For me, it's more the shape. I think the most important. I mean, because the light, the spotlight, the omni light are all the same. Like you put your light, it's done. After you can do specific like light function and everything with from your light if you want to have a specific shape on your highlight. But for me, it's the shape of your props. Like I feel like the shape of the emissive is very important. It's something that I've a lot of games sometimes do basic one, like you have the neon light, and yeah, okay, it's nice, but you can you can help a lot the structure, the design, the everything on your room just by the shape of your 3D object. So it's um, so here
Does
it's also
does this include the shape of the light fixture as well, that casting the light,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
okay?
It's like it depends of like also you need to do research like of your game. For example, if it's futuristic game, what kind of light you think it would have, which country, because each country has specific shape of light. Like for example, a Korean in Korea, like when I was working in Rainbow Six, we have this tower in Korea, and all the shape and everything, the 3D, where like we try to be very close to the Korean culture on how they do design for lights. And the same for we have a map in Italy, so we try to I spend time to see, okay, what's the kind of light in Italy they have. Like sometimes it can go too deep, and you're like, okay, just a basic light can be enough. But I think to give some kind of more details and like a lot of uh, good stuff. Like when you enter in a room, you see that you're like, wow, okay, this is cool, and it's just emissive in your face. We have like this specific props, and you're like, okay, this is enough to fill the room, and it can help 3D a lot, because at the point it just I try to justify a lot this thing, because emissive shape sometimes are not complex because it's emissive, so you cannot go in so much detail on it, but it helps a lot to focus the eyes and to avoid to feel too much the environment, because sometimes 3D are like, oh, we don't have enough space, we need to remove object and stuff. So I'm like, okay, let's put a nice shape of uh, I don't know, just a ceiling light, and it can help a lot very quickly. So it's like you need to work a lot with 3D and level artist to see what can help.
So instead of normal square emissive light, you
Yes.
might have a circle or something.
You can have a lot different. I mean, yeah.
Because I noticed this in some of your lighting, that there are some specific shape in Hyperscape. I remember.
Yeah.
You have like Chinese, Japanese lanterns. There's this half ring light I remember, and there's this window opening with grids on it. It has some interesting shapes. So it's something I actually noticed. Yeah, and I'm glad that you talked a little bit about it
Yeah,
because
I can. I can share. Oh, I don't know if you have my station. If you go to, wait.
yeah, sure.
Um,
Probably
oh wait, I
easier.
will. I will maybe share. It will be maybe more easier. Like this. Yes. Yeah, this is like with Rainbow Six with the towers in Korea, like I say. And I just wanted to show that, yeah, we work a lot with the shape of lights, like with round light, with square, like trying to fit, um, to have something that each room has something that you understand where you are, because the thing on Rainbow Six is you need to say to your
Players,
to
teammate.
all, yeah, to your teammates where you are, because it's very like very fast. So, okay guys, there is this command here on the tea room or the kitchen and stuff like this. So we every time trying to find hero props to be like, okay, here they know where they are. And I think on this one was a lot with, we try to play a lot with the light, and it was a lot of research to, okay, what can fit the most with the Korean culture.
Yeah, it has to make sense. It shouldn't be like, okay, why is there a glowing fish lighting stuff? It has to make sense, and you
Yeah,
have to spend time. I guess you have to spend time making a good reasoning to why that light exists in this environment,
yeah.
right?
That's the point. Is just like, for example, here it was like a show of they have this paper light, and everything was about this thing. So it was pretty important in the room to have them. And yeah, we spend a lot of time on this kind of thing, like, because you can destroy them, but you can keep the grid. So it was trying to find the best way to keep the light and having alive. So yeah, and you have like more modern light who are more focused on something. I would say office and everything. So yeah, each design, sometimes I try to, because I spend time to see, okay, like designer in life, what kind of light they do and which kind of light can fit more in something office, something in the kitchen, in something in your bedroom and everything. Like you you cannot put square light in your bedroom, for example, because it will feel too quickly like an hotel room, but not a room like you where you live.
So you
Um,
spend a lot of time looking at real light
yeah,
sources or interior design, maybe, and
Yeah, it's
kind
something that
of.
I, even in general, I like it, and I think it's important to work also this part, because it's nice to have like the best spotlight in your life, but I think the source of your light is also what gives life of your room.
That's definitely good. Bye, Hathak. Thank you for watching. Watch the rest of the video when you're back, I guess.
Yeah, hello Arthur.
So yeah, I mean, this is really fascinating. I'm trying to get interior designers to join this lighting boat interviews, because I agree that there's a lot to learn from other people, and why they do certain lights and why they do certain shape
Yeah,
and form. We have so much to learn. Definitely, that's very true. So you're back to your mood board as well. So now we have a very
yes,
good reasoning to what you meant with the props and everything. So hopefully that answers hidden questions people have about that part. So what happens with your mood board? Like, what's the next step?
so yes, I mean, in general, like I can show a new one where, I mean, it's yeah, when you have your picture, you know where you are. You're like, okay, let's go for colors. So here you spend a lot of time to find the good colors. But you, because all these pictures are different kind of, and everyone uh, have their own colors. So it's like you need to be like, okay, how I can um, give life to the mood I want, and you need to show in different uh, different position, different interaction with your picture. Sometimes something pretty close, sometimes something a picture with like more large, more environment. Um, so yeah, I will say that it's a it's a big work to find, because sometimes I think every time I had like 100 picture for each mood board, and I'm like, okay, which one I want to keep. And you start to play them, you start to change the color for some of them, because sometimes some I love them, I am a big fan, but when you start to change the color, you're like, no, it doesn't fit. Like it's not made for this. Like even the props, how is it in the scene? You're like, no, I think at the end when I change the color, it's not what I want to show, so you need to find a new one. So yeah,
So, do you ever edit the images that you find?
yes,
Like some
yeah,
people,
yeah.
they'll change like just the filter. I don't know what they do, different things in different interviews. They show different things. Is that something you also do? Like, would you change the right references where it's kind of orange stuff? Would you maybe make it more gray if you needed to, or blue?
Oh
I don't
yes,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the thing is, you need to show that, like, okay, how it would be in the mood. Like for example, if I took this one very particular, like with this colors, I mean, some have been on this color, and for example, this one with the soldier was like more yellowish, and I bring it in the same color, like to show, like, okay, it's the same mood, it's the same thing, it's what I want to show with this sandstorm, and but how it would be with the red, and it just helped to be like, okay, now if you have this view from a soldier and you see your uh, the other players, how it could be in the game. So it helped quickly to be like, okay, what the feeling, what we will have in the game. And so yeah, don't hesitate to change. I think the colors are like completely free. It's more, this is like the easy part to change the colors, because you have your reference. You're like, okay, now I have my colors. I know like how, I mean, the exposure I would like. Most difficult is to find the shape and what you want to show.
So when you say the shape, what are you talking about? The shape of the objects, the buildings, and
Yes,
the
and
bike?
everything. Yeah, it's like because sometimes I show too much sky, sometimes I show too much the ground, sometimes I mean it's nice to show different kind of thing. For example, here you can see I show the ground, but the two on the top show more the sky. So it compensates. Like you're like, okay, now it's the ground, this is like the sky. So you can help with that. Um,
So, as a lighting artist, then I think the viewers have learned that it's a good idea to know Photoshop or some image editing as
mhm.
well, to kind of have a good pre-production workflow. So let's assume this was a mood board that was done, right? You're done and everything, and you started lighting this particular level with the dust. So a question from Turkey Master is: after you finish a mood board, do you often find yourself collecting more reference throughout the production stage, even though you thought you were finished?
Yeah, I mean, for the everything like sky the main lighting, the main light and everything. We try to don't find. I mean, we try to focus on what we did, and we'll be like, okay, this is a new. This is how we should go and everything. If I continue to find references, it's more now after props, because I'm like, okay, I need more reference for this, and now it's more because the interiors start to change. Um, they are like, oh, I don't know, we have this new interior coming, or this interior we need to remove things. So you're like, okay, I need to find a new kind of lights I want to place here. So um, I will say for the exterior, at the end, it's the tweak come from more like when we do our first draft of light in general, like when you work, when you do your first draft, you're like, oh, okay, I'm happy with that. And you will talk with all the team. You will see with like art director or your lead or everyone. And you start to have feedback and you start to be like, okay, you see now, I mean, maybe on the mood board, I don't know, it's too much cyan or it's too much yellow or something like this, and we will start to tweak after from what is it in the game. But I think it's not it's okay to don't have your mood board is not the perfect one, and it's okay to don't come back on it, because I think like you need to add to go more after. You need to start to do it, and that's why we spend a lot of time, because it needs to be like clean. But you cannot be every time I will do redo and redo, because even for people it's like difficult to be like not just for you but for 3D artists, for example, who follow and are on your team. They try to catch like, okay, this is a mood board, I keep this one in my mind. And of course, like a lot of things will change, like you will have a lot of feedback, and sometimes it's too dark, sometimes it's too bright, or these kind of things. But this is like something you need to accept. Also, the feedback, it's something that it's very, very present at this moment of the stage.
No, you're
So
always right. Everyone is wrong. You don't need
yes,
any
always.
feedback.
Yeah, you need to. This is a part of you're like, okay, let's see.
Do you have another slide to offer Moodboard?
Maybe there's one more. Yeah, so this one is the
The last
second.
one.
Yeah.
Mm. So this is
So
more stormy and everything. This is the one you did. This is actually for the.
yeah, you can see I put some uh, interiors also. I mean, this one I had this moment where I like, okay, let's show some interiors because I feel like this mood board was like, I mean, on the left, for example, it was like, okay, just a bright sky. People see mostly what is it. So it's more to because mood board are like I say, it's for you, but it's for the team. It's to show like, okay, where we are going now. And I think just a sun sky, like okay, like the basic midday one, people can see, and there is no really big change of colors and everything. So I was like, okay, let's show so how will be the interiors, like how bright it will be, and also like which kind of colors we can go, what can help also the people, because sometimes when you prepare this thing, interiors are not start to made, and they start to think, okay, which kind of material we can have, so you can help with this kind of references.
Okay,
How is it?
that's cool. And a quick reminder for people, because we are reaching the end of our stream session. Uh, if you want some portfolio review and stuff like that, feel free to message me and we can include you in that. If you want to be highlighted in the community, you need to be active on Discord. If you want more Unreal tutorials, let me know. Otherwise, probably we're going to stop with the free Unreal tutorial if we don't have positive response. Our most popular tutorial seems to be in Unity, so we're going to continue with Unity. We're making a custom lighting course for games, so if you're interested in being the first one to get access to it behind the scenes, you can message. Don't forget, we have probably the largest database of lighting related interviews and talk on this channel, so be sure you go to YouTube and have a look. We also do short snippets, so there's always some short clips you can have a look at if you don't have time. We're still doing a lighting challenge in cooperation with Decogon. There is still 7 days left, so if you're really confident, you can still join and do that. We do provide lighting mentorship, so if you're interested in that, go to lightingboard.com. Some of our next interviews is with Karim. He's a lighting artist as well. He has some really good mood type of lighting that I want to explore. So that's up next. We are also starting to introduce other topics such as photography and hopefully art direction and cinematography. So we have quite a talented photographer who does fairy tale photography. So we're going to learn how she approaches lighting and photography as well, which is quite useful. Remember, you're watching Calis here. We're talking about lighting for dynamic weather effects, and we will be probably ending the stream in a few seconds. So I want to say thank you for attending, Geoff, and thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you
making
too.
the time to prepare something. And yeah, do you have any final words? Do you want to put up your art station and get some more followers, or if you have it already, or
No, I
do
mean it's
you?
fine. But yeah, I just want to say to people to have fun with lighting, just enjoy, and yeah, don't be afraid to spend a lot of time on it. It's not. It's always worth it.
All right. So you get thank you from le bibliothécaire or something.
Yes, very French.
Edwin as well. I say thank you.
Thank
So yeah, again, guys, thank you for watching. I think we already have the next week scheduled. I've started adding events on Discord too, so it should pop up there as well. And yeah, we did. I don't think we rescheduled you, so that was probably a good first attempt for this month. And I do apologize that most of this month has been difficult to schedule because people are getting sick and stuff. But thank you for your support. And yeah, I'll click end broadcast in a few minutes. So we're gonna wave goodbye to everyone, and then I'm gonna talk to him a little bit in private as well. So thank you for watching and have a good weekend. Goodbye.